Good morning and welcome to the FRANKENWEENIE podcast with yours truly, Downright Chadwick and Cannon Curtis. The Lean Mean Green podcast machine is debuting for the first time on our 17.5 The Clubhouse, and I must say, what a wonderful reception. Today's topic for our first episode, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where beauty meets horror and love meets tragedy. To give a brief summary, in this gothic romance, we see the viewpoints of multiple characters through a series of letters they write. Mainly focusing on the story of a young scientist, Victor Frankenstein, we read as he gains the ability to reanimate the dead. After gaining the ability, he soon starts to regret his actions as he learns he has created a love-hungry monster seeking revenge on his creator for neglection. There's a lot of topics and there's a lot of themes brought up throughout the whole book, and Kaden and I want to address one of the bigger ones, and that we feel at least, and that is moral parental responsibility. And we're gonna basically ask the question: is Victor Frankenstein morally responsible for the monster's actions? We're gonna have a conversation, and I think we should just get right into it. And Caden's gonna start us off. Caden, what do you got?
Alright, so a topic this large is really kind of hard to answer, so I feel that we should start from the beginning, from when Victor is in the process of creating the monster. So, in this process, Victor makes his intentions pretty clear. He only had positive intentions for creating the monster and attempting to help mankind and push science forward. He had no negative intentions about this because of the excitement and possibility you could hear in his speech. So on page 44 in the process, Victor says, "A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me." So a lot of the times, when you have an idea that makes you excited, you tend to be blind to the potential consequences. And it's obviously clear he desires to create a breakthrough in science. Was the outcome what he envisioned? No, but we're just trying to show that we're talking about morality here. His initial moral ideas were in the right place. It's like a scientist trying to cure a disease and accidentally hurting the patients. They didn't really know what was going to happen, but they were hoping for the best and trying to help others, just as Victor was trying to do with the monster. So, really, to reiterate, we both believe Victor is not morally responsible for the mayhem caused by the monster.
I couldn't have said it any better. We're gonna take a brief break, a little sponsor intermission, and we'll be right back in section two, guys. See you. R17.5 The Clubhouse, Frankenweenie. This podcast is brought to you by Frankenstein on Ice. Frankenstein on Ice, an elegant spectacle with a star-studded cast of Emma Watson as Elizabeth, Stephen Hawking as Dr. Frankenstein, and finally, the Demon, aka the Monster, played by none other than Rosie O'Donnell. Frankenstein on Ice, where, if we cannot inspire love, we will cause fear in all audience members. Frankenstein on Ice. Buy your tickets now with the promo code WEENIE for a 10% discount. That is all caps WEENIE. Frankenstein on Ice. What could go wrong? Okay, guys, so we are back on R17.5 The Clubhouse with Frankenweenie episode 1. And to get back into it, Kaden and I want to start off section 2 with coverage of when the book really starts to get into the monster's early but important decisions. This is close to the middle of the book after the monster has had his first kill, and on page 84, Victor says, quote, "Thus spoke my prophetic soul, as torn by remorse, horror, and despair, I beheld those I loved spend in vain sorrow upon the graves of William and Justine, the first hapless victims to my unhallowed arts." And for any parent, knowing your child has committed an irreversible crime, it can be heartbreaking. I mean, I don't blame Victor for being in the state of mind, for being in this state of mind while in the heat of the moment. And anybody would feel sorrow at word of your family being murdered, especially if it's, murder from something that you've created or given birth to. And as of right now, Victor is scared of what has happened and for what is to come. He's filled with only negative and depressed thoughts at this moment. Caden, what do you have to say about it?
So, in my part here, I'd like to focus more on the monster side of the situation. So, the monster now has the ability to read and write and methodically understand his feelings at this point in the book. He actively searches through Victor's journal to find out his origin and how to find him. So, on the monster's journey, he really does have a lot of time to think about what he wants to do, and when he eventually does get a chance to act upon his thoughts, he kills an adolescent child, which is Victor's brother William. The monster is no longer a helpless baby anymore. He knowingly kills William. Look at even later in the book, the monster thoroughly explains to Victor how he killed his adolescent brother and tells Victor it's his fault and that the monster is in the right. This is in no way Victor's fault, though, because he has nothing to do with the planning or the execution of his brother. It was, again, the monster's own decision. And that's really all we have to say for this one. So, Brief word from our sponsors, and we'll have one more session analyzing our topic of moral parental responsibility.
This podcast is also brought to you by Body by Victor. Have your sister going crazy. Teens and mad scientists alike will get the body they've always desired. Did you know that Victor Frankenstein was shredded? Neither did we, until we saw his immaculate abs on center stage while slipping and sliding all around in his laboratory with his new creation. Take part in Victor's 8-disc set and go through rigorous routines focusing on your upper abs, lower abs, and obliques. Order online today at vshred.com, and if you use the promo code WEENIE, that's WEENIE all caps, WEENIE, in the next 10 minutes, you'll also get a free disc set of Elizabeth's Elizabuns, glutes, training, and more. Have the physique you've always wanted with Body by Victor. Okay, guys, we are closing off on episode 1 of the FRANKENWEENIE podcast. We're in the final section, asking, is Victor morally responsible for the monster's actions? Caden, let's finish it off.
Alright, so in this third and final section, we're really trying to show that the monster has the ability to react properly to his own actions, and he starts to regret his own doings. So the monster says, "No sympathy may I ever find. When I first sought it, it was the love of virtue, the feelings of happiness and affection with which my whole being overflowed, that I wished to be participated. But now the virtue has become to me a shadow, and that happiness and affection are turned into bitter and loathing despair. In what should I seek for sympathy?" So the monster says this on page 230. This is later in the book, and this is fresh off Victor's death. The monster finally really comes to his senses, and he starts regretting his actions. He was mostly blinded by the desire to be welcomed in the world, and his envy took control. The monster never took the time to appreciate his creation. And Dominic?
Yeah, so if we bring this situation outside of the book into the real world, you start to notice that kids really don't realize how much their actions can take a toll on their parents. And the things that the monster put Victor through, eventually it was just too much for him. Victor dies as a lifeless man that had nothing more to lose. Similar situations happen in the real world, as I said. And in a nutshell, there was parent abuse, a child abusing their parent. And studies show that people who have experienced parent abuse have had property damage, violence directed towards them, and even in some cases, death. And if you look at the events that transpired between Victor and the monster, I believe that this is a prime example of parent abuse. And ever since the monster began to wreak havoc, he put Victor through an absolute hell. Victor is in no means responsible for his own death. The monster deliberately drove him to his breaking point, and this is just more evidence that the monster was always in control and knew what he was doing. Even though he was upset at the world, he had no right for killing anybody. And in the end, because of Victor's original intentions and the monster's control over himself and actions, Victor shouldn't be responsible for anything that the monster did after he left Victor's chambers early on in the book, right after his creation. And yeah, that's really everything we want to say about it, guys. Katie, you have any closing remarks for FRANKENWEENIE podcast episode 1?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah, we covered everything we wanted to, guys. Hope you enjoyed. This is on R17.5 The Clubhouse. We are signing off. Kaden Curtis and Dominic Chadwick. Thank you, guys.